I'm here with Bailey Hubbard. Bailey is now at the end in the completion phase of the podcasting class, and she has some advice for future podcasters. Bailey, tell us what your podcast was about and any advice that you might have for future students.
So my podcast was all about skin health. I named it, the title was From Within. My biggest thing for advice would be if you were going to choose to use your phone to videotape for your episodes, make sure that you go through before each, I guess if it's due Monday, like it was for me, before each Monday, make sure you've wiped your phone of any unnecessary messages. Phone calls, videos, and pictures are a huge thing that take up so much space on your storage for your phone. Delete apps that you don't use. For me, sounds really dumb, but I would have to go in and even though I don't even use Snapchat anymore, I would have to delete the whole app, Snapchat, just to get the video to like have space for me to actually take a video on my phone. And that's just because I'm a hoarder with pictures. So just make sure you go through that so you're not last minute trying to figure out Adobe Express, but you're also trying to figure out how to even take a video and like find storage on your phone. So if that's a problem, use your computer, use an iPad that you have, someone else's phone, and AirDrop it. And then one other thing I would say is pick a topic that you can't shut up about. Luckily, I was so quick to think about skin because I'm just obsessed with it and I know so much about it. So pick something that you could just go on and on and on about, because you being able to come up with episodes and talk for 20 to 40 minutes will be so much easier. And then not even necessarily just something you know so much about, but something that you know that you can be very like broad on versus vague. If it's a vague topic, like for example, like there were some people, not to like shout out anyone in a bad way, but there were some people that did like retail, and I feel like that's only so little that you can talk about things. Maybe not, but try to do something that there's a lot of realms and a lot of avenues that you can go down so that you can make other episodes and you're not being redundant and repeating yourself. Those are the two things I would think. Just storage on your phone, and then pick like a really good topic that you can talk about a lot and has a lot of avenues.
Awesome. And you mentioned something about a mic, and you think that students should get a mic or not get a mic? Because I know that this class can be completed without purchasing a mic. And I know that we have mics that you can check out on campus, but not everybody can drive to campus to check out a mic. And a lot of people use their phone with success using Adobe Voice AI. Can you give us a little bit of advice about mics?
I would say to get a mic, because there were some times where you would tell me like, put it in the voice enhancer. And then I would like try to do it. And then it would just be a whole different, it would just I wouldn't be able to figure out the website. So then I would think to myself, I wish I just had a mic so I wouldn't have to figure out this software. Not that it was hard, but just time management for me. So if you get a mic, there's even ones like now it's like all TikTok shop and stuff, but there's ones on TikTok shop that you can get for like $10. And I should have done it, but I was like, oh, it's not going to get here in time for like the amount of episodes we have left. But just get a mic, because it will make it more fun, and it will just honestly just make your sound way better and more enhanced.
And we can find mics that are not that expensive. We can find mics under $100. The Samsung Q2 is one of the ones in that category where it's a cardioid mic. It's under $100, and you can avoid having to travel to campus to check out a mic from them, right? Do you have any other advice or tips for students in the completion of this class? I know that you might have struggled with storage and you might have struggled with some other things. Are there any things that you wish you would have known at the beginning of the semester?
So hopefully it doesn't change for whoever's watching this video, but one thing that I messed up on was in the beginning, before my first episode, it was the over voice where you like say your intro, your pitch. And then it was also the video that you explain, it's like your narrative, but it's not within your podcast. You're just explaining who you are. Those two videos needed to be unlisted. But then once you start your first podcast episode 1 through whatever it is, make sure that when you post them on YouTube, that you're posting them as public, because that's where you get your demographics and analytics. Is that the way you say it? If you don't post it to public, then you're making it harder for yourself. And that's what I did. So now I'm going to have to like improvise on that, because I did all of mine unlisted. So to sum that up and just generalize it, just read everything in fine print that he sends out or that's on modules, because little things like that, I thought all of them would be unlisted because the first 2 were unlisted, but it switches up. So just make sure that there's like little details that you're catching on to about the class so you don't mess it up.
Awesome advice. And those early episodes, we don't force you to make public so that you can make changes and adjustments before it goes public. But after episode 1, it is really important to have it public on YouTube so you can get the YouTube data. And the reason we use YouTube is because they give you such great data analytics that you can then put into your podcast media kit. Do you have any advice on the podcast media kit? Because that's fresh in your mind too.
Yes. So we just went over this. So the infographics, I can pull it up on so the two things that say infographics, it's I don't want to say it wrong. Okay. It's the two, it's the download and listener metrics infographic. So this is where you look at the metrics and the total downloads, the average downloads per episode, the engagement rates, and then also the listener demographics and statistics. That's more of just where you can pull from your survey or you can pull from your public data from your video with the age range, the gender, the distributions, geographic location. Those two things are going to be under infographics. So if you go to Adobe Creative or Adobe Express, there's a template that you can use and it will pop up on the left side. I would just say for the media kit, go off of or even manipulate the web page that you did in the beginning, because that will give you inspiration of what to use for your background or what layouts or what templates, because I felt like I was starting from scratch again because I forgot how to do all that because it's just been 8 weeks and I have 3 other classes and work and life. So I would just honestly manipulate that one because that one doesn't have to be turned in again. Go in and edit it and just use that as a layout if you have a time crunch. Just try to make it pretty and organized. Put in your runtime, how long your videos are, just for a visual for people. Your personal narrative part, your host bio has to be, no more, no less. So make sure you get that word count. And that's basically it. That's all I can really think of.
Awesome. So as you were listening and watching other people's podcasts, what did you notice that they did well? Or what do you think that most people might need to have worked on a little bit more? Because I know getting a specific topic like you did wasn't something that everybody was able to do. Not everybody can find something that they're totally obsessed about. Not everybody can find a specific topic that they're passionate about, they could talk about forever. So what kind of things do you see people doing really well? And what kind of things do you see people needing to work on more in our course?
I resonate with that a lot because I remember in high school, there would be prompts for essays and they would say, write about this one thing that just write about something that you're passionate about. And I would never know. So I'm just lucky to have been able to be indulged by Skin. But things that people did that were good, I would say they chose a good person to interview. That's a key thing. If that person's boring, it's going to be boring. If that person won't talk a lot, then you're going to be carrying the whole situation the whole time. And you already have to do that in your personal narrative. So try to find someone that is as interested in the topic as you when you do a interview style podcast episode. Things that I feel people could have worked on were basically just presence. You want to make sure that you're acting like you care, even if you don't. You don't need to be monotone and timid and just too chill about things when it comes to a podcast, because then your audience and your listener or your professor is not going to care. So I would just say put some spirit into it. Learn how to kind of edit where you're not having breaks of silence or so, where you can edit and just kind of cut it the correct way.
What did you use to edit?
I used iMovie, which isn't the best thing. I mean, you said I could, so I did, but I ran with that. But that's not the best thing to use. It's just I grew up doing that when I was younger. I just loved iMovie, and I've made videos on there from traveling. So I was very familiar with it, but I used that.
It's a tool, and we're tool agnostic. Yes, we're an Adobe Creative Campus. Yes, we say, hey, use Adobe for everything. But the truth is, you can use whatever you're comfortable using. Bailey, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time and wisdom and sharing what students can expect in our podcasting course.
You're welcome. I enjoyed this class. You'll have fun.
I'm here with Alexandra. Alexandra, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your podcast.
My name is Alexandra Velez, and my podcast is about the toxic culture in video games and how that affects women and minorities and your mental health.
That sounds like a difficult topic to get into. Did you have any challenges as you were producing your podcast?
Not really, but I guess it's some of the topics are sensitive, so you have to tread lightly.
You don't want to alienate your audience, right?
Yeah, I don't want to offend people by talking about, like, giving my opinion, maybe.
Really good advice for podcasters to be aware of alienating their audience. Do you have any other advice for future podcasters?
Okay. Don't start your assignments too late because editing takes a long time. If, like, and also watch videos on how to use, like, all the features on Premiere Pro or whatever editing software you're using, because it'll literally double the time it takes for you to complete editing a video if you don't know what you're doing. Definitely, like, look up videos on YouTube about the software you're using. Don't be scared to edit stuff out. Like, I would edit out, like, a full conversation sometimes, just, like, to try and put what's, like, actually useful in the podcast, or, like, what I think my audience would like. Yeah, just don't be too hard on yourself. I feel like there's a learning curve in this class, so...
And it can be really steep if you've never edited before, so you don't have to use Premiere Pro. But a lot of people choose to because they know that they can do things in Premiere Pro. You can't necessarily do an iMovie or Windows Movie Maker or whatever other software that they're thinking about using. Do you have any other advice for our future podcasters from this course?
On the peer reviews, to not be afraid to criticize your peers. Because in my class, everyone was really nice to each other. And I would just, like, maybe I wasn't happy with my episode, right? And I saw a lot of flaws in it. And everyone was just like, oh, it's okay. But I want to hear from other people what I'm doing wrong so that I can get better. So don't be afraid to actually give people their weaknesses.
Such good advice, because a lot of times people are afraid to discuss weaknesses of their peers. But that's the whole reason we have the peer review process, to help us grow, right? Do you have any advice for people who are maybe struggling to wrap their head around an idea for their podcast? I know you found gaming early, right? Because that was one of your passions.
You definitely want to choose a topic that you're passionate about or interested in. Like, yeah, don't be scared if it's gaming or something that you might think is silly that, like, your teacher doesn't want to hear, because it's your podcast. So it doesn't matter, because you're making it for your own audience and someone's going to want to hear it.
It's not about necessarily the people in the class. It's about your audience and serving that audience. Do you have any other advice for future podcasters?
Okay, yeah. Definitely focus on your audio levels. Like, I feel like that's a big part of the editing process. Some people would have, like, really loud music on in the background. You just want to try and make everything equal on your episode.
That's great advice. And ducking is a skill that sometimes takes time to learn. Luckily, in the programs that we talk about in the course, we have some programs that will help you to duck more easily, but it still takes some skill to blend seamlessly from intro music to voices, right? And yeah, we don't necessarily want the music too loud to where it competes with the voices. And that kind of audio engineering, while it might seem intimidating at first, if you just do a little bit of research and get in there, you can find the information on how to do ducking in whatever software you're using. Do you have any other advice for our future podcasters who might be a little bit apprehensive to start doing their own podcasts?
Honestly, don't be scared. I was really nervous about, like, anyone seeing it, and I felt like I was really hard on myself about, like, what I made. But I started sharing it with all my friends, and it just, like, became a thing that we watched weekly. So I'd say, like, share with your friends, share it with your family, and then I feel like you'll become less nervous about it if you, like, watch it with people. Because you're going to see that's not that bad, because then you're going to hear your friends laugh or something, or they're going to have conversations about it, and it's going to make you feel better about posting it on YouTube publicly.
And remember, posting on YouTube publicly, why do we do that? We do that so we can get audience data to have a good media kit. Do you have any advice about putting together a good media kit?
You want it to stay on theme. Like, creating a brand for your podcast, I feel like, is important. So, and you want that to be consistent across the whole class. So, like, for gaming, for me, like, obviously that was using specific fonts and colors and stuff, and using, like, the same background that I used the whole time. And I gave my media kit, like, a cyberpunk theme, because that's, like, a big gaming thing. So I think, like, one of the biggest things you could do for your media kit is just make sure it's on theme with your podcast.
Are there any other things in the media kit that you noticed people could have done better, or people were doing really well?
You can tell when people put effort into their assignments. So if you're making a media kit that's just, like, one page, for example, and it's just plain words, like, and only, like, one sentence per section, like, obviously I can tell you didn't care about what you did, and I'm not going to want to read it either, because it's, like, the most boring thing I've ever laid my eyes upon. make sure your sections are sectioned. Make sure there is meat in the section. Yeah. Oh, and pictures. Pictures are nice. I like looking at pictures. And also, don't make some of that sections too wordy. Really, honestly, people like to skim things, and they're going to want to find the information they want to find. And if there's like basically an essay per section, it's just going to make it harder on the person. Okay, another thing for the media kit, embed your links. Put those links there. Do not make me copy and paste your links. No one's going to watch your stuff. And maybe you don't want them to watch it, but for the sake of the person looking at your media kit, please put the links in your kit. And like actually linked, like not just the link and then I have to copy and paste it. Like I mean like actually like link the video. Maybe just like embed the video as well so you can watch it inside the kit.
Yeah, so some of the earlier assignments, what's some advice you might have for some of those earlier assignments where people were trying to find someone to interview for the first time or trying to script their solo part for the first time?
For the interview, definitely like depending on whatever your topic is, you can honestly message people on social media, I guess. I found my person there. My first guest was a Twitch streamer, and all I had to do was literally just message them on Instagram, and they got back to me really fast, and they're like, yeah, like I'm so down. So just be nice to people and ask people. Like, don't be scared to ask. I mean, at the end of the day, like the worst thing that person could have said to me was no. So for the solo part, definitely script it out. Don't just think you can go in there willy-nilly and do it. It's a little hard. That was like one of the hardest parts for me at the beginning was that little solo part. And that's why I avoided it like the rest of the semester. Like talking to yourself is awkward, okay? Talking to yourself is awkward and just staring into the camera. So you definitely want to come prepared before you start recording. And it's like, obviously it's okay if you like record it 40 times. Like you have unlimited attempts.
A lot of people like to practice their solo with a script. Did you script your solo podcast or did you have bullet points or how did you approach it?
I did script the solo portion, but this is important. I wasn't just like reading it off. I feel like at a point, I just remembered what I wrote and then I kept those like points inside my head, like things that I needed to talk about. But it was natural. What came to me, what I said was natural. But the only reason I was able to do that was because I had those points already in my head and I wrote that down and I looked at it multiple times. So I like was going in there knowing what I was going to say. Yeah, just like let things let things flow. Let what you want to say like flow out of your head. It'll be good, I promise.
And that's really good advice because sometimes we can get out in our own heads and we're not following, things that we should be following. Or maybe we're sticking too closely to the script, right? Maybe we're not letting the organic thoughts happen on our podcast because we're just so focused on that script, right?
Yeah.
Other advice for our podcasters?
When you're posting, I saw a lot of people do this. When you're posting onto the discussion boards, like your link or something, please do not like post like an MP4 file. Because then I have to download that on my PC, like a 40-minute MP4 file on my PC, and then I have to watch that separately. And it's hard for everyone involved. It's just easier to upload to YouTube, and then you'll have that secure. You'll have that secure and waiting for you, and it makes it easier for people watching it.
And for people who are concerned with privacy because their employers demand it or because of other reasons, you can post it as an unlisted video, right?
Yeah.
Were there times whenever you felt like putting some B-roll over the conversation to make it more interesting or to enable kind of more of a privacy mode?
Heck yeah. I feel like, an easy way to cover up cuts or like there's a quite obvious like visual cut in your episode, right? You could, like for me, because mine was about gaming, I would put like a gaming clip over it or like some information on what I was talking about over that to make it easier on myself. And I feel like it also is more entertaining for the viewer at the same time.
It's a really good practice. Are there any other practices like that you would recommend people do for their podcast?
This isn't like a technological thing, but this is like, I'd say you should get into a schedule. Personally, for me, I was dead set on recording every Tuesday so that it was consistent for me and I knew what was going to happen. And anyone that was interviewing like knew that this was like my day. Like I need you this day. So have a day that you record, and then the next day, always the next day, I spent like however long I needed on editing, but like I made that free so that I had time to do that. So I definitely get in a schedule, and it's also nice to post like on the same day, like every week, like for your audience and stuff. Like they know when it's going to come. It's nice to just have a schedule for you and your audience.
And that kind of consistency is a great thing to shoot for. And even if you fall a little bit short, sometimes you still are giving yourself a little bit more room because it's before the actual deadline for the course, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely want to post to the discussion boards, like not the last minute. It's just easier to have things done already. And then for me, like I would go do like the peer reviews on Sunday or something. I just liked having like free time from this class. No offense. But I had like my certain days for this class specifically, and then I would focus on the peer reviews after. Like I've let everything settle in my mind.
And it's good to have work-life balance, right? And work academic balance too, which is more difficult these days, but it's a good thing to shoot for. Think back to the audience persona. Do you have any advice for audience personas for our future podcasters?
I feel like it's definitely difficult to come up with your audience persona, which is also why I feel like choosing your topic wisely will come in handy in this class. Because for me, like, my topic is literally just about, like, women in video games and how it's toxic. So my persona, like, it's people that play games, but also, like, women that have, like, the same toxic experiences as me. So that was, like, clear to me, like, who my audience was. So you just have to be, like, very careful with choosing your topic so that the rest of the class will be, like, not easy, but easier for you. Like, you want to choose something that you know about.
Really good advice. And making sure that you consider your topic in the context of your audience and in the context of what you want your podcast to be about and who it's to serve is a really important step to think about. Any final advice for future podcasters about to start the launch of their show?
Don't be scared. And you can ask your professor for help. He's very helpful. If you have any questions, don't feel like scared to reach out. Like on the surface, it might look like the assignments are extremely difficult, but once you take the time to sit down and actually read what it's asking you to do, like they're pretty simple. It's just like a matter of like how much like time you want to put into the assignments.
You put in will be what you get out in terms of time investment, in terms of thinking about your audience. I think that's true for a lot of podcasting. And I think that's true for a lot of courses. Andrea, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you online?
Online? Y'all can add me on Discord.
Share your Discord with us.
Yeah, any gamers in the chat? My Discord is Alexandra, ALICKZANDRA. That's like also my ad for every single video game on the planet Earth. Yeah, don't be afraid to reach out. I'm chill. I always like making new friends. I love playing video games. I play a lot of different games too. So you just add me on Discord or message me on Instagram or something. Like, don't be scared. I have a lot of cool friends and everything. We're always looking for more people to play with us.
Alexandra, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your advice for future podcasters. We appreciate you.